there. Welcome to the Firestarters video series. My name is Steve Scheier. I've worked in cannabis since 2018. As you know, I talk and write about power, and I offer leaders in cannabis leadership guidance, and I create curated advisory boards for them. Coming soon in the fall, we'll have our first Cannabis CEO Council, which I'm excited to launch as well. I'm also the author with my friend Michael Ashley on the book Power Up, Essential Tools for Cannabis Leaders, which is available on Amazon. So today, I'm really happy to have Sheri Tarr on Firestarters. Sheri, welcome to the show. Sheri is a cannabis consultant. She lives in New York, and she is an attorney as well, and much, much more. And we're going to hear all about what Sheri is working on. It's going to be very exciting. So Sheri, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm going to start off with a quick correction. Recovering attorney. Recovering attorney.
Recovering attorney.
And it's relevant. I make the correction because it's relevant.
Excellent. I am all good with that. Absolutely. And you'll expand on that, I'm sure.
I will.
So, Sheri, we always start off by asking our guests, what's the state of cannabis in your home state, which is the state of New York? So please, if you could talk a little bit about that, that would be great.
Well, pun intended, it is on fire, Steve. See how I did that?
Yes, I did.
It's a burgeoning market. It is literally on fire. And all of the work that many of us have put into getting the cannabis market in New York to the place where it is, it's very exciting. And all of that hard work is starting to manifest in actual. We have an Office of Cannabis Management. They have workspace. They have people in all of the functional positions, and the regulatory schemes are now being developed. As a matter of fact, the licensing regulations for retail licenses are currently available for public comment, and we're going to start to see a rollout like that of the regulations available for public comment. They get improved and then finalized, and then we'll start to see RFAs, requests for applications for various license types in New York. And quite frankly, just to put a finer point on New York, it is really truly poised to be everyone knows it's a massive market financially. But in terms of setting the standard for really balancing what appears to be oftentimes conflicting and competing interests in creating a safe market, creating an equitable market, creating a sustainable market, I think we're well positioned to get there. Actually, it's very exciting. We're right on the heels of MJ Unpacked opens tomorrow and several other events going on. And it's exciting. There's a lot happening. And we thank New Jersey and other predecessors like Massachusetts and others that got out ahead and, really set the standard. We've learned a lot of lessons from other states. As we talked about before the show, I'm deeply involved in regulatory strategizing, navigating, analyzing, applying. And New York has had the good fortune of, frankly, borrowing and learning from other states, our neighbors that went before us.
Okay, wonderful. So, Sheri, you have a very, very, very interesting story in cannabis, how you got into cannabis. So, tell us a little bit about your professional background and what you did, and you have a very unique story. And then tell us what you're doing in the cannabis space, and that would be fascinating if you could jump off into that.
Absolutely. So because, as we get older, my memory fades. So I'm going to start with where you ended. Then we'll work backwards and you can remind me of the questions. So I'll start, if it's okay, I'll start where I am, and then I'll reverse engineer that so people can understand how did I get to do what I'm doing now based on 30 plus years of relevant experience. So currently, I'm the owner and chief advisor of my own consultancy called 68 Partners. I founded my own consultancy many, many years ago after I practiced law for many years. And currently, I serve exclusively cannabis brands and license applicants. And I help them navigate very complex regulations, find commercial paths, to market if they're a brand. And with license applicants and license holders, I help them to prepare for license application rounds, get their, if you will, their ducks in a row, and create all of the foundations that are, help them to create all of the foundations that are necessary to even apply for a license. And then license holders and brands help with compliance strategies so that they build sustainable businesses long term. And I do that, I'm able to do that, and I'm privileged to do that because I've got over 30 years of firsthand experience operating in an FDA and otherwise heavily regulated space. Specifically, to your earlier question, I actually started my career out of the University of Michigan, where I went to undergrad in the pharmaceutical industry. So I was one of those ones that carried a bag, and I was in sales, and I moved into marketing. And the story of that is relevant because as I advanced and saw how the sausage was made, if you will, how products were made, how they were marketed, as much as a marketing person as I was, and I'm still at my core a marketing wonk, the voice that I had on behalf of consumers and patients and wanting to understand, for example, why products were being recalled and what complaints we were experiencing. And my focus was on how do we manufacture and market safe products, because I understood that if you keep building safe products that perform as advertised on the label, something magical called consumers come back and they buy the product. And so yet my voice, my advocacy on behalf of safe products, even though I was a marketing person, I learned when I rose in the ranks and I was sitting in the rooms and partaking in the decisions to release products into the stream of commerce. I realized that perhaps there was a different venue for my interest in putting safe products on the market. And I didn't want to be a part of the problem anymore. And rather, I wanted to be a part of the solution. So I flipped the script and I traded in my suits and my briefcases for jeans and a backpack and went to law school with a mission. And that was to sue the pharmaceutical manufacturers and medical device manufacturers. I was hopeful that I would help somehow to create a safer marketplace so that, consumers could ultimately get products that improve the quality of their lives. So
was there a tipping point for you? I mean, I'm sure you have confidentiality agreement, or I shouldn't say, I'm sure, I would imagine whatever, but was there a particular sort of global issue which tipped you over to going to law school?
Well, the truth is that it never occurred to me in my lifetime to go to law school, to be a lawyer. Back in the day, that was an option for the boys. There's a story that I've told that, back when I was in third grade and they asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? The girls could choose nurse, teacher, mother, and the boys could choose lawyer, businessman, doctor. And frankly, none of them were appealing to me at the time. I wanted to be a hockey player. So I chose hockey. I know that's not your question. I promise I'll get back to the
no, it's quite okay. You never know where these things will go. It's all good.
Right?
Go ahead.
And so this is the truth, honest truth. I grew up in a small town outside of Boston, and that was the question that was asked, and it shaped my life. I distinctly remember I was met with some disdain, and it did not make my third grade teacher. It was neither impressive nor humorous to her. She thought I was just acting out. I really did want to be a hockey player.
I got to write that in the show notes. I got to make sure that I remember to put that in the show notes. Hockey player.
I did. That was my first love.
I'm serious.
And then when she saw my answer, that wasn't any of the three that women could choose, let alone any of the three that the boys could choose, she said, girls can't play hockey. give me another answer, pick another answer. And then I said, so, okay, then I want to be a wide receiver for the then Boston Patriots. And of course that didn't work. So fast forward however many decades, and I end up checking off two of the boxes that the boys got to choose from, which was business person and lawyer. So the tipping point for law for me, honestly, I mean, I thought
Can
of.
I just say that that is a great story, and yeah, I'm definitely putting this in the show notes. So
Okay.
the options were mother. I'm sorry, what
Nurse,
were
teacher.
mother,
And can I
teacher.
just say, noble, all noble, important.
Right,
That I just they didn't resonate with me. And then
right,
the boys, it was doctor, lawyer, businessman,
right. And I'm sorry, it was mother, teacher,
nurse.
nurse. Okay, got it. Okay, that is an awesome story. It's really great. Okay.
So I, I I mean, at the time, it was, as I was thinking about what's next, what is the next path for me to stay in healthcare, and yet improve the quality of people's lives, because that truly was coursing through my veins from an early time.
Mhm.
And it was either MPH or, do I stay inside pharma and advance and try to make a difference inside? And or somebody, quite frankly, suggested law, because they said that the way that I um, advocate, present, try to persuade, sometimes successfully, inside pharma.
Mhm.
I don't think the person that made the suggestion that I be a lawyer was actually being complimentary. So as a matter of fact, I sat for the LSAT on my birthday, with not a lot of preparation. Um, it's not something I advise to all the lawyer wannabes out there. And actually, that's a central theme to the work that I do: prepare, prepare, prepare. I did not prepare very well, but yet I got in to a school in Chicago. And the tipping point, I guess, in all seriousness, was,
Yeah.
what is the next career where I can leverage my background, my unique background, training, and experience being on the front lines, inside the belly of the pharma beast, if you will,
Mhm.
and then effectuate positive change.
Mhm.
And then where does that intersect with some natural skills that I had? And
Mhm.
um, I made a deal with myself that if I got in, I guess I have to go.
Right.
And and in all seriousness, I took it very seriously, but I was a woman on a mission, no doubt. And I wanted to get through law school as fast as I could so that I could get in the courtroom. That was the goal. And to litigate cases against the drug industry and hold them accountable in ways that perhaps only somebody that actually was on the inside could
Mhm.
do, in an effective way. Not to say that other
Mhm.
people that didn't work
Yeah.
for their former employers and then prosecute them can't do a good job, but that was the tipping point for me, was just an accumulation of my experiences and what's next. What is the next step where I can effectuate the most good in my lifetime?
Got it. And is there a particular, and if you can't, it's fine. Is there a particular case that stands out for you that you were able to litigate that came out with an ending that was really affirming? Is there a case you can particularly talk to?
It's not so much a function of confidentiality. It is
Mhm.
more, let me give you I'll give you a more thoughtful, I guess, and more insightful answer to that. Um, I was involved in and litigated many, many cases against some major pharma brands.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes some repeat offenders,
Mhm.
um, sometimes my former employers.
Mhm.
Um, and uh, there were several cases. Quite frankly, all of the cases were affirming that I was, not only that I was doing the right thing, um, but that consumers of drugs needed to know the guts of this situation, and how did we go from hypothetically a drug that was intended to alleviate minor arthritis pain, how do we end up with deaths and debilitating strokes in otherwise reasonably healthy, relatively young people? There was one case. I have no intentions of protecting the innocent, but so I don't lose the point in the pronouns. There was one particular case where it was catastrophic. The injuries and the harm that was caused by a company absolutely overreaching in its claims, in all of its marketing materials. It proactively misled a massive marketplace to believe that the product was safer than not, and withheld determinative information from doctors and therefore the consumers and the FDA that had that information been known, that product probably wouldn't have seen the light of day. And had it seen the light of day, at least doctors could have made more informed decisions. So there is one case that I think I was the most, they all took my blood, sweat, and tears. There is a piece of me left in a lot of courtrooms all over the country. And I hope that I helped to move the needle. But there are several cases that were exemplary, as in not a good example of how these drugs are marketed, how they're manufactured, and how consumers can be easily misled. And quite frankly, it's a good,
perhaps also very vulnerable consumers.
Yeah, and it's not because they lack it has nothing to do with a lack of intelligence or a lack of research. It absolutely has to do with the level of sophistication of these strategies to cut corners, to deviate from regulations, all in the name of profit, and then more profit. And then there's an expression that I've often used. If you're going to be a farm animal in any business that you're in, be a pig, not a hog, because pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. And when you're a hog, and you go for too much, or the opposite, you proactively cut corners in an effort to go for too much, then you're a hog, and it does a disservice. And I think it's a nice segue to the work that I've been doing as a consultant since I left law, and started my own recovery from that practice, that the harm to your brand, let alone your consumers, and let alone to your other stakeholders, including your shareholders and whatnot, the long-term harm to your brand when you cut corners, all in the name of profit and getting to market more quickly, it's just, at the end of the day, it's just not worth it. And in my not so humble opinion, typically the risk of damage to your brand and your market far outweighs the potential short-term hit that you might get from making misrepresentations or cutting a regulatory corner.
Right, for sure. So Sheri, I've got a couple more questions for you. This has been really fascinating. So I want to talk about your business focus now. I also want to talk about, many people are concerned about big pharma getting into cannabis. Why don't we answer that question, if you would be so kind to answer that question. How likely is it that big pharma is studying entrance into cannabis? And how much of a threat is that to the established players in the market as we see, as it now stands?
There's no mystery. They are in it. They're already in it. Their teams are locked and loaded, and they are waiting at the gates, so to speak. So that to me is no mystery. And like it or not, it's business. And the cannabis industry represents a massive opportunity for everybody, especially including the pharmaceutical industry. The fact that the FDA, this is a longer conversation, perhaps for another day, but that there will not, in my view, you didn't ask the question, but I'll give you an insight.
Please do.
I deal a lot with companies that are trying to navigate brands and license applicants and license holders navigating regulations, both for purposes of their labeling and how do we get on the market and how do we expand our business. And oftentimes people say it's so confusing, the FDA isn't clear about what the regulations are. We're waiting for the regulations to come out. In my experience, since 1938, the FDA hasn't significantly changed their tune, nor have they significantly changed the regulations. And we know from the spattering of warning letters that have been issued over the last few years, and just the rhythm of what the FDA is doing, it is the same rhythm that was pulsing during pharmaceutical times decades ago. I personally don't anticipate that the FDA is going to significantly, if at all, change its current regulations or its oversight of the industry. And I get to say this, I guess, because I've been on the front lines and worked for and against pharma. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think that there's something about pharma's role in the cannabis industry that the FDA might be where they are in terms of regulating this industry.
Is the pharma industry actively lobbying to have federal legalization, as far as you know?
Well, the pharmaceutical lobby, I think second to none, and if it is second, it's only to gas, oil, I should say,
right.
is the most well-heeled and aggressive lobby in the world. I'm not in that world. I'm just aware of how it spins on its axis.
Right.
And there's no question that the pharmaceutical industry stands a lot to gain from federal legalization. They are actively advocating for their interests.
They're active. Okay, very good way of putting it. So, Sheri, as we wrap up here, let's talk about two things. Number one, who your typical clients are, okay, and then let's talk about how people can reach you.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. My typical clients are emerging brands and businesses, existing brands and businesses. So emerging, if you want to create a commercial pathway and you want to build a compliance strategy, which will in fact help you to build a sustainable business. So emerging brands, and then existing brands who want to get their compliance ducks in a row, bolster their brand and do that in a heavily regulated space. And license applicants, helping them to prepare. So for example, right now, license applicants in New York would be well advised to start to prepare now, work with a consultant to help them to get the foundational ducks in a row so that they're not, the worst case scenario, doing it themselves when the license applications come out, when the RFAs come out, excuse me. And that they have, I just want to say, just as a caution, find the right consultants, and find the right lawyers. Not every lawyer is a compliance consultant. Not every compliance consultant is a lawyer. You need lawyers for certain things, but not most things. And with respect to license applicants and license holders, I help with everything from building the brand narrative to navigating the regulations, to implementing and designing commercial strategies that help to build sustainable businesses. So those are the three: brands, license applicants, and license holders.
And I know you're in New York, I know you're focused in New York, but I assume that you're able to help anyone.
Absolutely.
Anywhere.
Global. Global,
Global.
as a matter of fact, the licensing application and preparation work that I've done has been global. I've worked in multiple competitive states and helped teams prepare winning license applications in multiple competitive states, including Illinois, New Jersey, and beyond. Competitive is the key word there. Not every state has the same, fierce competition nor type of regulatory scheme. So yeah, short answer is I do go wherever I'm needed. And so far, a lot of the work until New York came online, I mean, a lot of my work, if not most of my work, has been outside of New York. Right. So licensed applicants who are interested in preparing, which is what they should be doing now. Happy to talk with anybody that's looking to do that. And also brands, help them build compliance strategies from lab to label so that they can build sustainable businesses. They can contact me to get to your other part of your question. My website, 68, the digit 6, the digit 8 partners.com. My email, Sheri, SHERI at 68partners.com. And then my LinkedIn profile, believe it or not, there are 2 Sheri L Tarrs out there. I'm the one with the E, the 1 R, the I, 2 R's on the last name, TARR. And you'll see it straight away. I think the first thing in my title is regulatory navigator or strategist, excuse me. Or as my clients say, one of them says I'm a regulatory whisperer. So
yeah, that's a good one. I think you should have that in your title. Yeah, exactly.
I think I will.
Exactly right. So, all right. Well, Sheri, really wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you for participating. I think I hopefully you had the opportunity to play a fair amount of hockey.
Well, as a matter of fact, okay, this is a funny way to end this. So first of all, thank you. I'm humbled and I genuinely appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and to all the listeners. Well, in the same respect that I wasn't able to be a hockey player way back, and I'm aging myself. I mean, it's multiple decades ago. Girls couldn't play hockey. So I never got to learn as a kid. And so I grew up kind of with nothing. So, but I am a MacGyver and I've learned to MacGyver my life, and I MacGyvered my way onto a rink. It was more of a pond. I had no money and I didn't have skates. And so I decided to take tinfoil and I wrapped it around my sneakers so that I could at least slide on the ice. And even though I was small, I was compact, like what are those dogs that they're really small, but when they bump into you, it's so I could give a check and take a check, and but mostly I was in the goal because I didn't have any experience skating. So I wanted to be Jerry Cheevers of the Boston Bruins. That was the goal. So I didn't get to play hockey, but I'm telling you what, if this gets out there, Boston Bruins, I'm sorry you didn't advance any further in the playoffs, but I'm still dreaming about skating in TD Garden.
Okay, well, we'll tag the Boston Bruins too. All right, awesome. Sheri, really a great honor to see you. Really great pleasure to see you, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Steve.